Hey everybody, it's Stacie Duffy here, your Denver Metro real estate resource with another Why I Love Colorado video. So I know a lot of Coloradans are just like, please stop posting videos. We don't want anyone else to move here. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not what you say when I tell you how much your property's worth. So there you go. You don't seem to complain when it's worth $100,000 more than you thought it was, even in a shifting market with crazy rapid appreciation. And that's because people like living here. It's a desirable place to be. So yes, it does make it more expensive. I'm going to talk about that in the cons video. But in this video, I want to talk about some of the, I don't know if I'm going to talk political. I'll talk a little bit political. I usually don't, but given post-Roe situation and everything else that's going on right now, I've actually had some clients reach out to me and say, hey, given everything, we're not happy with where we're at. We think Colorado would be a better fit for us. And I totally understand that. I totally respect that. It's been a much better fit for me and my lifestyle, and I am much happier here than I thought I would be even. And I was excited to move here. So anyway, let's go ahead and kick into it. So given that post-Roe is a recent situation, I'm not sure when you're going to be watching this video, and it may or may not matter. There might be some differences in policy then. But what I can do to make an impact, to help improve people's life, if you're curious about moving to a safe state when it comes to women's health care and reproductive rights, Colorado's great for that. So letting you know that current situation is we are a safe state. I don't foresee that changing anytime soon given our political culture. And being born and raised in Texas and it being a very different view on women's health situation right there, I don't get the same vibe here as far as what people think of it. Even in our very conservative areas, it is not a heavily religious state as a general rule, right? I would say, yes, you know, we're blue, there's a lot of red, like there's a lot of people that fall in the middle. There's a lot of people that are purple, right? Or independent or libertarian or something of the sort. But that totally depends on the area. And that's going to be the case for any place you live. There's going to be, you know, a general shift one way or the other. But given that Colorado as a whole isn't as religious as some southern states, that doesn't impact our political situation nearly as much. We also don't have as many churches. And I will say, as someone who moved from DFW area, it was kind of a surprise to me when people did things on Sunday morning. And I was like, other than church, you know, they would have events or stores that open before noon. It's like, what do you mean the store's open at 10 a.m.? Isn't that when everyone's at church? No. Open houses. You know, depending on what part of town you're doing the open house in, doing an open house, given what I do for a living, that's something that we talk about is, you know, open house, because the whole point is to get traffic in the door, meet new clients, new sellers, new buyers. Open houses don't sell houses. So that's a whole nother video I'll link to up above and down below. It makes people feel good about selling their house, but it's not to sell a house. It's just for us to meet people and to meet your neighbors and get exposure and put it out there in case somebody happens to wander in and fall in love with it, which is pretty rare. But, you know, doing those things at 10 a.m., we do them around Broncos games. You don't do them, you don't worry about doing them during church and not having people because they're in church. You worry about doing them during the Broncos game, because if you do that, no one's going to show up. So that was pretty weird to me when I moved here. But I mean, I have a monthly social event that's been standing that I've been going to for 7 years now, first Sunday of every month. And it's from 10 to 12 in the morning. And that is such a change, and it impacts how people interact with each other. It impacts schedule, it impacts policy. So when it comes to, the whole point of this was for women's healthcare, we are currently a pretty safe place to be. And I'm very proud of that. And making that available. The other thing, you know, political policy wise, impacting life would be medical end of life decisions. That I believe that passed in 2016. I voted on that after being here. And so there are options for medical assistance for end of life situations. And I think for people that are considering that, that is a huge thing to be aware of if that's a situation that might be impactful to you. And how it all comes down to, you know, bodily autonomy, right? So I think that's a pretty big thing. And if you weren't aware of that, I think it's pretty nice to have, to be able to make those decisions for yourself and have options. So that was a big one for me too. As far as schools and crime, I have limited things I can say here because of steering, and I'll link to up above and down below on why we can't tell you about the good neighborhoods. And I had a call last week of someone, moving from another state that said, hey, we're not really happy with the political culture and what's going on here. We think Colorado's going to be a better fit for us and our lifestyle and our family. And we want to ask you about the good neighborhoods. Well, where are the good schools? Well, where are the good, where's the low crime? I'm like, guys, I got really strict rules on what I can and can't say there. Now, what I can do is point you towards official sources, right? So for crime maps, I'm always going to point people towards the city or the county crime map or crime website. A lot of them will have an interactive map that you can look in the area and see what instances as they log them and make them available for people to see. So you can see what happens in those areas. My thing is always reference that to where you live now or where you have lived in the past. So because it's all relational, right? Even data. And I'm currently chairing the local Realtor Association's statistics committee because I'm an engineer and data is important to me, right? But when it comes to understanding and interpreting data, a lot of it's relative. You have to have a frame of reference for data to matter. And it's not just, hey, crime went up or crime went down in the city. It's, okay, you're relating it to how it feels and how safe you feel and how comfortable it is. Is it okay to go walking, to take my little dog walking alone at night in my neighborhood? Like all of those things. So you need to take the data and relate it to something that is emotional. And reference really helps with that. So look at the crime map for the areas you're considering moving to, and then look at the crime map for your local city or your local county, or other places you have lived in the past where you're like, I didn't like living here because I didn't feel it was safe. So how is that compared to where I want to go, compared to where I am now? So give yourself some frame of reference. Yes, it takes some Googling. If deciding where you want to live and spend your life and your time is not worth Googling, I feel sorry for you. Or find someone that you can pay to do it. If that's the case, then it's worth it to you. If your time is worth more and you want to pay someone to do that analysis for you, fine. I'm sure there are people out there that would be willing to do it. But that, I think, for me personally, I don't, and comparing those crime maps to not the neighborhood I grew up in necessarily. I grew up in what I considered a really safe neighborhood, but the general metro area. Like there were definitely places in the metro that I was like, you don't go there alone, nonetheless alone at dark. And you certainly don't walk outside. Or if you're going there, you go with friends and you keep your keys. I don't have my keys because I'm out of the courtyard at the office, but you keep your keys between your hands, or something. You have some sort of self-defense weapon or mechanism or something just in case. I don't feel that for most of the places here. And looking at those crime maps, it is much safer than other places that I have lived. Less, not just less personal crime or assaults or something like that, but less burglaries and a lot of that stuff. Now, a lot of those things are going to happen anywhere that you live. So that's why check your crime maps and have some relevance, or some frame of reference. Sorry, I keep staring off at the cottonwoods that are floating in. We do have cottonwoods here. So, shiny object. It just looks like summer snow, right? So the crime relative to a lot of other major metros, I think it's pretty low. Now, there are some areas that you should be, definitely check your map and make sure you're comfortable with that. It's your choice. You're paying the bills. You're living there. Just understand. The other thing, schools. Schools is the same thing too. As a general rule, same thing, check school rating websites. Because there's not official ratings, they're all based on different data points and things like that. Whenever I'm talking to clients about moving here and checking schools and school ratings, I'm like, guys, don't just take what's on Zillow or Home Scout or Great Schools or whatever. Dig into those. Understand the number, because if you don't understand how the data is conglomerated and calculated, then you're just basing it off of something that may or may not matter to you. So when my husband and I were looking at purchasing our last property, there were some schools, because we didn't have kids the last time we bought a house. Like, we bought in a really nice neighborhood and the schools were rated really, really well according to a lot of these websites. So we love the area, but we were looking for something a little bit different. And there was some neighborhoods where I'm like, I know this neighborhood. I know these houses. This is what I do for a living. Why are these schools not rated well? And I go in and look and I'm like, okay, well, the reasons that those aren't rated as high is not important to me. Like, that doesn't devalue a school, in my personal opinion, whatever those situations may be. So look into those and dig into them a little bit, because there are some areas that I'm like, I don't know why that's rated so poorly, because the length that the teachers have been there is a long time, and the reviews from all of the parents and things like that are really good. So check into those a little bit. Don't just take those numbers at face value because somebody put them on a website or something and that, like, oh, that must be true. But as a general rule, the public schools, compared to a lot of other major metros, personally for me and my family and a lot of my clients and anecdotal evidence, I will start it with that, are very, very good. Now, yes, cost of living is high, so you're paying for a lot of that. And we have state income tax. We have lots of other things, but it's nice to know that I don't have to worry. Also, school choice programs. That's a huge thing that people coming from other states don't realize is like, okay, well, if the school is in your school district, most of the district here, you have the option to choice into a different school. So it doesn't have to be just the one that's closest to your house. It's your feeder school. You might have to wait a little bit of time to get a spot into the other one because that one's not your feeder school. But like my preschooler or my 3-year-old, which is hard to believe, is starting school in the fall. God, in a month. Oh my God. And the school that is a feeder for us, it's not that it was a school we didn't want to use. It's just, it didn't have sidewalks to get there. And I wanted to be able to walk to go pick up my kid. And so, from elementary school, and I thought that was kind of nice. So we're actually doing one that is not our feeder school, but distance-wise, it's actually easier and faster to get to. And we were able to do that. Like, that's a big thing for a lot of people that are worried about schools for their kids is maybe you want the other school and it's a district school, and we have lots of charter schools as well and private schools and things like that. So there's lots of options there, but being able to opt into not the school that's next to the house, but if you're in the district, you have choices if you're willing to make the drive and willing to wait for a spot. That's pretty cool. Like, I think that's really neat. Now, yes, there's some political opinions on that as far as how the money gets distributed and how that all works. I'm not going to get into that, but like I said, this is all my opinion and bias and just something that has mattered to me and my family and anecdotally to a lot of my clients that they have told me is important to them. So I just wanted to tell you those things. So anyway, so that's when, as far as it comes to medical things that have been pretty important in my decision in living here, or medical, bodily autonomy, as well as schools, crimes, that kind of stuff. The property taxes I'll hit on quickly just because I'm talking political question, that kind of stuff versus just social and culture. We do have state income tax, which is kind of a bummer. That is 4.55%. And of your adjusted gross income. So yeah, that's a bit of a hit. Our property taxes are much, much lower than a lot of states that don't have state income tax. So it's kind of a trade-off. I would say overall, depending on how much you make and how much your housing cost is, it could cost more. But it depends on those two factors, and those can vary pretty widely based on, the person and the property. So there's trade-offs there, and I will say the town, because I live in a township, the town I live in, the sales tax is almost double what it was down the street, a mile away. So that was something I didn't realize and didn't look into before I purchased in that town, but with living in that town, the pros outweigh the cons for me, and it's worth it. We just don't do quite as much Amazon shopping. Maybe I'll go, down the store or go down the street to the store, and you know what? If we have the disposable income and it's like an extra $3 or $4 sales tax, then okay. Just understanding those things and being aware of that. So anyway, those are kind of my rundown on pros for me, at least pros for me and my family and a lot of my clients of living here in Colorado when it comes to those particular items. As I mentioned, I'll probably keep doing video series on these things because I love living here, and I love when people are thinking about moving here. I was like, oh, you're going to love it. I mean, I don't know if you're going to love it, but I love it. And I just think that's so awesome to love where you live and love what you do and all those wonderful things. So anyway, if you are looking to move here and you would like to pick my brain a little bit, or especially if you're looking to move to the South Denver area, that's the area that I service, Central and South Denver and the South Denver suburbs. So feel free, please reach out to me. I do this for a living. I love helping my clients. I love helping them find what they love. That really, it's awesome to do that for a living. Like, it's really, really cool. I'm really, really fortunate in my situation. So feel free to reach out. My phone number is down below. Feel free to call, text, email me. My contact information is also on my website. Link for that is down below. If you need me in another area, or you're thinking about moving to Colorado, but maybe it's Fort Collins, or maybe it's Colorado Springs, or some other area that's outside of this that you're like, yeah, but you're in Denver and we might want to move further away and have someone that knows that area better, reach out to me. I have an amazing network. I'm up to like 260 agents across the US. And a lot of those are in the state, and a lot of those are people that I have worked with and referred other clients to. So I want you to have the best fit for you, whether that's me or somebody else. So feel free to click the link down below. I have some information there that I can get from you, and that way I can make a quick match appropriately. So anyway, thanks so much for the time, and hopefully this was helpful for you. If so, hit the like button. I would really appreciate that because that would help other people find it too. So thanks so much, and have a great day.